I'm Scott Green. I'm one of our admissions counselors with Emory and Henry. And today we'll be covering the theater session where Dr. Kelly Bremner will be talking about some of the department and everything that you all might have some questions about. And speaking of questions, at the very end, when she's had her time to talk, we will open it up to questions. And please feel free to type those into the chat box and I will read those off. And then if there's any other questions that might, if you kind of don't have too many or if you're not really sure what to ask, I'm going to ask some just in case. So there we go. But without further ado, I will toss it up to you, Kelly.
Awesome. Well, hey, as Scott said, my name is Kelly Bremner and I am the chair of the theater department. I have been with Emory and Henry for about 11 years now, and I have been present while the theater department has undergone some amazing changes. So Emory and Henry's theater department, in the grand scheme of major theater departments across the US is relatively young. We've been around for, 15, 16 or so years as a major. And in that time, we have created what I think is a really great theater program, particularly if you're interested in holding on to that small liberal arts school kind of feel. Well, also if you're a pretty serious student about the theater, right? So, for example, we have students that work in the theater, a lot of them. We are pretty serious about how we help students understand what a professional career in the theater would be. But we also are really great at holding on to that small liberal arts experience where lots of students can get involved. You don't have to be like, the next star on Broadway to get a lot of really great stage experience. You don't have to come from a program where you've had a ton of theater to do quite well with us. Although if you come from a program with a lot of theater, you also will do quite well with us, right? All of those things can be true because of the size of our program. So the theater program right now lives in and around, it's hard exactly to tell because we just graduated a huge class of students. But we run with about 60, 70 majors in the theater department at Emory and Henry's campus. So what that means is that we are big enough to be a major force on campus, but also still small enough to offer a really individualized experience for our students. So what I think I will do can I show, I can share my screen. I'm gonna show you all a presentation that I have prepared and I'll talk over it so you can see what some of the things are that we're able to offer. Scott, is that working okay?
Looks good on my end.
Wonderful, good, because I can't always see what you see. So I'm going to run over quick some of the big stuff about the theater department at Emory and Henry. So what I think Emory and Henry does better than just about any college I know is we do that blend of what I've just been talking about, this blend of pre-professional training in a small liberal arts school environment. So we train our students to be successful in both of those kinds of worlds. So let me show you how it is that we do that. So first of all, we have a lot of different major opportunities. And actually, Scott, you probably are seeing this for the first time because I just was able to add a couple of different really awesome things to our major offerings with the provost's office and the permission of the faculty so that we're able to offer even more customizable work for our students. So if you are a serious student of theater, or even if you're not, you maybe know that there's two different kinds of degrees that students usually get in the theater. Those would be BA degrees or Bachelor of Arts degrees, which you can see on one side of your screen there, and also Bachelor of Fine Arts degrees, or the so-called BFA. So we offer a Bachelor of Arts in Theater, which is a broad-based comprehensive BA degree in theater. In that degree path, we're going to want to make you as diverse as you possibly can be. We're going to want you to be a blend of actors, directors, designers, etc. We're going to even your course of study across all of those different fields. Another thing that you can do, however, is you can study theater with a dance concentration on the BA level, meaning you can take a BA in theater with dance, which is a combination of, it's about 1/3 theater courses, a lot of courses on sort of the basics of theater, the basics of stagecraft, and about 2/3 of courses that are intensive in dance technique and dance study. You can also take a minor in theater, which is, again, sort of a broad-based minor, or you can take a minor in dance, which is just the courses that make up our dance core. So it is a combination of dance technique courses and a combination of dance studies courses, which make up that minor. So that would be another thing that you can do with us. We also, however, offer the BFA degree. BFA degrees are more intense than a BA degree. So our BA degrees, for example, are 40 credits in theater. A BFA degree is 60 credits in theater. So BFA degrees are for students, sometimes they're for students that want to study theater in a more intense way, or another way to think of it is a way to study theater in a way that is more concentrated. So on the BFA level, we offer a BFA, a competitive BFA in musical theater. I should pause and say, for entrance into any of our BFA programs, they are audition or interview dependent only. Not every student who would like to do a BFA at our school gets to do a BFA at our school, right? It's competitive and it's juried, meaning in order to graduate with a BFA, and this would be true of any program you might be looking at, we look at our students at the end of every year and check their progress and make sure they're meeting various goals that we have for you in those programs. These are, intense degree programs. It's not impossible to double major as a BFA, but it is a lot more challenging to double major as a BFA versus it's quite easy to double major as a BA, for example. So back into it, I have a BFA degree. We offer one in musical theater, which is, a three-way, kind of a four-way split between acting, singing, dancing, and theater studies, right? So it's all of those things mixed together. And with a, focus on making sure you know how to read music, making sure you know how to teach yourself music, musical theater. I mean, you have to know how to do everything. And in that degree path, we'll try to teach you how to do everything. The other BFA path that we offer is a BFA in theater arts. And the BFA in theater arts allows you to concentrate in performance, directing and stage management, or production and design. And in those sub-concentrations, again, there's 60 credits as opposed to 40. So it's a combination of the 40 credits from the theater BA plus another 20 credits that's concentrated in what you want to do. So say you want to be an actor, you're much more interested in concentrating on acting, you might want to study maybe a BFA in theater arts with a concentration in performance. If that's you, we offer, I would say, I'm not looking at the list right now, we offer about 10 different acting courses, and you would take a whole lot of them if that was going to be you. Directing and stage management, same thing. You would take the core courses that we offer in the theater BA, and then we would also further concentrate you past that into directing and stage management. And then also, in production and design, if you're interested in working in lighting design or scenic design, etc., that might be a degree path you might want to pursue. So those would be the two major paths: a BA path in theater, a BA path in theater with a dance concentration, or a BFA in musical theater, or a BFA in theater arts with a variety of concentrations available to you. Let me go on to the other thing that makes our program truly unique and why I think those BFA degrees, and frankly, even our BA degrees, are pretty special. And that would be our partnership with the Barter Theater. So, we're a small liberal arts school in Southwest Virginia. And folks have said to me before, Kelly or Dr. Bremner, why is it that you stay in Southwest Virginia to teach theater, right? It's in the country. Isn't there, what's going on in the country? And I say, I think you'd be challenged to find a theater program that offers more than what we're able to offer. So we're able to offer that liberal arts experience, but we are in proud association with the Barter Theater, which is the oldest equity theater in the state of Virginia and is the state theater of Virginia. This is a theater company that has professional actors, directors, designers, etc., all over their staff. And what we're able to do because of that connection is extend our classroom training into real world professional theater experiences. And this is really important to me. We're able to do this for all of our students. At a lot of schools, if you're a BFA student, your experience is very different than a BA student. In fact, at some schools, and you might want to look out for this, whether or not Emory and Henry is your choice, BA students can be treated as sort of second-class citizens. And I have a problem with that on a whole variety of levels. And one thing I love about our partnership with the Barter is what I'm about to describe to you is something that is available absolutely for our BFA students, but it's also very much available for our BA students. So what do we get to do with the Barter? First of all, we see upwards of 10 shows a year as a department. Your tickets are folded into your tuition costs. It's part of coming here. You'll take a class under the 480 number called Professional Theater Experience, where we'll offer skill-based courses on things that are specific to a burgeoning sort of professional interest in theater. Maybe we'll run a 480 course, a skills course on something like costuming. Maybe we'll offer a skills-based course on something like stage makeup or sound design or acting the song. Or for first years, I'm going to be offering a course in the fall that essentially is an introduction to the profession and an introduction to Barter Theater, where we'll meet all these wonderful folks, we'll tour the facilities, etc. In addition to going to see all of those shows with the Barter and taking those skills seminars that I discussed, many of which will involve visits from the Barter, we also get to do what are called observations at the Barter. So observations at the Barter mean when you're a sophomore, you're welcome to observe at the Barter, which means essentially they hand you the keys and say like, Camille, Kaylin, what do you want to learn? Great. Why don't you come to the Barter and watch professional theater makers doing it? So I've had students as part of their observership do hours in the rehearsal hall, right? Watch a professional rehearsal hall. And that is invaluable if you want to be a professional actor, to know how a professional hall really works, what it's like. It also allows you to maybe sit in a costume fitting or even a business meeting, right? If you're interested maybe in going into the producing side, they'll let you sit in on a business meeting and just listen to what it is that they're doing in there. So maybe you want to watch a changeover. Maybe you want to watch a scenic artist paint a backdrop. Whatever it is you want to do, you observe for those credits. Once you've completed an observationship, you're also able to take on a mentorship. And in a mentorship, we pair you one-on-one with someone at the Barter who does what you want to do or does what you want to learn. So, maybe you're a young musical theater performer and you want to really think about what it's like to take on the New York City market. Well, we'll pair you with someone at the Barter who has successfully taken on the New York City market so that you can learn one-on-one from that person what that is like, right? That's a pretty amazing thing that you're able to do with us. We also offer workshops where, if there's something that we think that you all should know or could know, we'll bring in folks from the Barter to teach them maybe 3 hours on a Saturday. Let's work on stage combat with someone from the Barter who's super qualified to do that. Maybe we bring in the main choreographer from the Barter and they'll run a professional style dance call with our students who want to become musical theater performers so that when they go to the big national auditions, they know what to expect. So those are the kinds of things that we do with the Barter. Excuse me. We also do a personalized talkback after every single show we see. And this is not like your traditional talkback. I went to a lot of talkbacks as a student where it was like, how do you memorize all your lines or, that kind of thing. Well, what we do instead is we partner with the Barter and your faculty in the theater department work with the Barter to determine like what's going on in that show that you as college students would find most interesting to get to know. So sometimes we've talked about sort of like matters related to directing or casting, or what it's like to work in theater for young audiences, or what it's like to work with particular technical aspects of performance, that kind of thing. That's what we're able to do with our talkbacks. We also have a personalized audition at the Barter. The Barter auditions at one of the largest cattle calls in the US, meaning they look at thousands and thousands of young performers for their young company. But they look at our students in one afternoon in a group of about 20 students, rather than making you go to that big cattle call in Memphis. So, that's also a pretty amazing perk that is only offered to Emory and Henry students. All of these things I just offered you or described to you are specific to Emory and Henry. So I can't say enough wonderful things about the Barter. The Barter becomes sort of an extension of your faculty. They come to think of you like family. Nick Piper, who's one of the uppity ups, as it were, at the Barter, talks about you all as part of their company, your company members to them that are just learning your craft. And I think that's a really amazing thing. Other things that I think are worth highlighting is Emory and Henry has a brand new performing arts center. So we, as theater students, our theater department, we produce 4, sometimes 5 main stage productions a year. And as a theater student, you would be involved in every single one of those every year. You probably, if you're performers, you would be, usually what we do is we audition 2 at a time, and we probably would put you only in one. And then the other one, maybe you would work backstage. Maybe you would be on run crew, the light board, the carpentry. Maybe you'd build the set. And then maybe on a different show, you know, your responsibilities would look different. You'll be like the lead performer or something like that, right? So we do that, and we do that in 2 different theaters. I should have put pictures of them both here, but we have a formal, like, proscenium theater, which is the image that you see to the left there, that interior image. Which is a beautiful theater. And we produce 2 shows a year on that stage. And we also produce 2 shows a year in our black box theater. In a black box theater, it's just a lot smaller, and we're able to do some really interesting things in there. So some of the images I've shown you are from a recent production of Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime, which I directed, which I had my cast construct the entire set out of chalk as we went. So the floor was all painted in chalkboard paint, and the cast drew the set as we went. It was kind of a cool production, but, you know, a little bit different. And we put those kinds of productions in our black box. The last thing I'd want to say is I think of this program as a seriously student-centered program. I this afternoon got off the phone with one of my students who had just graduated that needed a piece of advice and wanted to know what I thought about something. And what we're able to do here at Emory and Henry as a college is offer you a really personalized educational experience. We invest in our students as individuals. We really care what happens to you beyond your time at Emory and Henry and while you're at Emory and Henry. So we're able to really think about like what you specifically as individual students need to get where you want to go, whether that be, the theater scene in New York, whether it be you want to run a community theater, maybe it's you want to be a high school theater teacher, whatever it may be, we're able to find ways to really customize what we do to get you there. So fun facts that I like to share. I just finished running these stats. The college makes us look a year ago. What are all your students doing? I looked at my 2019 graduates, 100% of them, and exactly how many is that? 9, 10 of them, 100% of them are working in professional theater right now. That's pretty cool, isn't it? I don't know how many programs can claim that. This is the second year I've been able to claim that 100% of my students a year out of graduating are working in professional theater. And the vast majority of those folks were not furloughed in COVID-19 either, which I think is really interesting. A lot of them are so essential, they're still working despite what's going on in the world right now. Also last summer, this summer I'm still collecting the stats because as you might understand, we have a lot of students who are placed into summer jobs and we're trying to figure out what's going on with all of those given what's going on in the world. But last summer in a department, we had 62 students in the department last year, right around that number. 30 plus of them worked professionally in the summer leading up into that year, right? And that's because we're really, really careful about if you want to work professionally, we figure out ways for you to do that. So that is a big overview of what we're able to do as a department. I'm sure that you have more questions. I've got my email address there, and I'm sure that Scott can share his email address or yours or mine with you too to make sure you get any of your questions answered. But yeah, that was the Reader's Digest, crash through the department, Scott. So yeah, where do we go next?
All right, so it is open for questions now. So, Camille, Caitlin, please feel free to ask Kelly any questions. And also I might ask a few questions myself here too, but I want to let you all go first just in case.
Yeah, and you all could type them into the chat if that's more comfortable too. If you wanted to unmute and talk to us, that would be great. But also if you wanted to type them into the chat, that would work as well.
I guess there we go. So what papers are required for applying?
So Caitlin, are you looking at BA programs or BFA programs? Do you know? Okay. Do you know which BFA program you're interested in? I was going to say,
Theater.
most of the time it's musical theater. So if you were interested in a musical theater degree, so we would need to see an audition for you to do that. So the audition, we post those requirements, but I could get you in touch with my colleague in musical theater. Her name is Annalie Tull, and she would get you all set up to do everything you need to do. We need to hear you sing a song. We need to see you give a monologue, and we need to check your dancing abilities. And we have a video we send out. We'll teach you the dance. And then in this world, you can record yourself doing the dance, and you can record the monologue and the song, of course, too, and send them back to us. And we take a look at that. So from the theater department's perspective, we ask for a resume, a headshot if you have one, the audition, and that's all we need. Now from admissions, they need other things as well. And that BFA audition, if you'd like it, we also have merit-based scholarships in the theater department that everyone, whether, no matter what kind of student you are welcome to go for those. And if you would like to, at the same time as you're applying for the BFA in musical theater, if you'd like to also apply for scholarship, we can look at you for both scholarship and BFA at the same time. So the paperwork, I'm going to defer that to you, Scott.
No problem. So in terms of just generally applying to Emory and Henry, we don't require too much. The most that we'll need is your application, and that can come from either our own website with the Emory and Henry application or from the Common application, if you're familiar with that one, and that is found at commonapp.org. Beyond that, all we would need then is your high school's transcripts, and if you do have test scores, SAT scores or ACT test scores, if given that, the situation with COVID-19, we do have some availability for waiving test scores as well too. And then beyond those, if you have any community college time that you've spent working classes, so if you have any transcripts from community colleges, just make sure you send in those dual enrollment credits as well. And that's all we would need to determine your acceptance.
Then, Kaylin, I would also add to this too. I don't know when you're looking for, but if you're a sort of junior-ish, the timetable can be, what it normally is, right? You can send those materials on when you like. We also are able to allow students to enter our BFA programs after they're already here. So, at this point, if you were to come, and sometimes we advise students do that anyway. So if you're interested in a BFA in musical theater, sometimes we look at students who don't have, they don't quite have the training they need yet to enter a BFA program, but a lot of students can get that out of their time at Emory and Henry. So we also offer the ability to do what's called petition into a BFA program, and petitions are for students who are already here. So if you're already here and you're interested in joining a BFA program, we can provide you with the ability to petition into a BFA program as well.
Very good. Super useful. I guess one question, we've got one review. So no essay. Yes, no, currently we do not require an essay. But I'm gonna say one question I have actually is in regards to kind of going in towards the internships. Because I know that many of our students go into internships in theater. Where are some of those, and what are some good examples of that?
Right. So we have all kinds of internship opportunities. We have a lot of students who intern at the Barter. And the reason why I say that is they intern at the Barter, but it's not a guarantee about the partnership. But here's a cool thing. And I actually think that's great, right? So, if you earn an internship at the Barter, you earned it the same way that any old student across the US did it. Although because they have a hand in your training, and they often choose Emory and Henry students to intern, whether it be on stage or backstage. Last summer, we had a lot of students working in the theme park world. We had a lot of students working at various outdoor theaters and a variety of other repertory theaters that run through the summer. So summer rep theaters. We had students at Lise McRae. We had students at Myers Dinner Theater. We had, the name of the theater is going to escape me. We had a couple of students at some West Coast summer rep theater companies. So we we had a bunch of kids and students in Nantucket working with young people, right? So that's fun. They got to summer in Nantucket, right, with a bunch of young people there. So what some of those internships are like is there are places that we send you, like a conference like the Southeastern Theater Conference, or what we call it in the business, SETC. We prepare you to go to SETC to get your materials looked at by a lot of different companies at once. We also pull a lot of theater companies to us to look at your materials. And we also do a lot of work to sort of match make students with potential theater companies that would be a good match for young interns. So, it's everything from, students who work as counselors at summer camps that are specific to performing arts, all the way up to students that are working on EMC points or equity theater points for working on stage in various opportunities from there.
Excellent, thank you. Oh, Camille has a question.
Yeah, I was going to say, Camille, I feel like I already know you. Yeah, I was like, I know the name. So now I'm gonna, go back and look for your audition materials. So if you are coming in as a BA theater major, if you want to petition, you make it known to us really early on that that's your goal. And if you're going to if you're going to petition, it will happen at the end of your first year. And then you actually have another opportunity to petition again at the end of your sophomore year if it doesn't work out. And what we would do to petition you is we would know that it was going to happen. It would happen on jury day during spring semester, which I believe it will be the day after the last day of classes. So April, 20-something. And it would be the same material that we ask for at that original level. The difference would be the faculty that would be looking at you for the BFA program would be the ones who are coaching your material. So, Camille, you would be working on voice lesson material with the professor who's likely going to look at you for that petition. Your acting work will be coached. I actually would probably coach your acting work and then look and see what's there, right? So that's how it works down the road as you petition your way in. And hopefully, I don't know who's building your schedule, Camille, but they should build, if you're interested in petitioning into the BFA musical theater program, we should build your schedule as though you already are, meaning you want to take class voice, you want to take acting, and you want to take ballet 1. And if you want to hang on for a second and you and I talk to make sure you're being set up with that schedule, I'm happy to help you to make sure that that happens.
Excellent. So I guess another question from me here, maybe while we're waiting for everyone to type in. Oh, Camille says awesome.
Well, thank you, Camille.
Is that, I guess in regards to graduate levels of theater, do you have a number of students that look into going into like kind of the graduate level for I guess maybe those who are in BFAs or those who are in the sort of the general theater BA?
Yeah. So it kind of depends on what the student's interest is, right? So I would say that question, Scott, it varies on, it's such a, one of the things I love about this program is it's a student by student level. So in most fields in theater, it is not recommended that you go straight through grad school. That's usually not the recommendation. I went straight through grad school, so I'm maybe a bad example of that. And there are exceptions, for example, Christian Tripp was a relatively recent graduate from Emory and Henry's program. He auditioned at SETC, the audition I told you about a moment ago. He was offered a number of professional theater opportunities and a number of graduate schools that wanted him. And we kind of sat and talked him through what his goals were. And we, in the end, with the help of the folks at the Barter, actually recommended that he go straight to grad school. So he's just completed his second year there. He's actually just recruited another Emory and Henry grad to also go there. So now another one of our students, Osama Ashur, also goes to grad school there in Alabama. Yeah, I know, isn't that funny? Right, so sweet. They're going together in a program that's an MFA in acting, specifically that program. I have Pearl Moore is entering the Champaign-Urbana program in playwriting this fall. I have a number of students who do that, but Pearl actually applied to grad school right out of undergrad and even got a few offers, but we were like, I don't know if that makes sense for you yet. And I think she made the very wise decision to take a year before she went off to grad school. But, we're able to sort of take a look at your individual offers and figure out what's the best place for you to go. There are other students who take, try to become someone like me, right? I have my doctorate in theater. The more common path to do that would be a BA to an MA to a PhD. We have students, actually, we have a student who just moved back into Abingdon who's a PhD who graduated from Emory and Henry. right? So sort of fun that we have all of those things going in our program. It just matters what the student individually wants. So if you want to teach on the college level, you need to go to grad school, and in grad school you need to work either on the MFA level and study one of the practical arts, or you need to work on a scholars level and go MA, PhD. And then that is stuff we all go over with our students while you're here, like trying to figure out what you want and thus advising you what kinds of graduate school programs make sense for you.
Excellent, thank you. See if anyone else, please, feel free to enter in some questions too on the chat box while I'm also asking some of the ones I have. I guess another one from my end would be that given that Emory and Henry has a number of study abroad opportunities, what are some more particular ones that are good tie-ins with the theater program?
Let me grab Kaylin's question first, and then I'll get to yours. So Kaylin, if you were to audition for musical theater BFA and not get in, like that happens. It happens not infrequently, in fact. BFA programs are really competitive, and ours is really competitive. That's how we maintain a reputation for the quality of our program. We also have a lot of students who who choose then to petition, to answer your question, Camille, who petition and do eventually get into that BFA program. They just need a little bit more shine on them, as it were, right? So Kaylin, if you were to audition for the musical theater program and not get in, our BA programs, both the BA in theater and the BA in theater with a dance concentration, are not audition dependent. Any student who wants to can choose those degree paths. So would you be put into the BA theater program if that's what you want? Absolutely. We'd love to have you. And there's nothing like, we have a lot of students that might actually surprise you that they're BA students. They're BA students because the program's a better match for them. You have a little bit more flexibility in a BA program, and some students really want that flexibility. So, would you be put in the BA theater program if that's what you want? Then yes, you would. And you might find actually you like it. You might find that it's actually more suiting to what you want. There is no opportunity that is closed to a BA student because they're a BA student. It's just the number of credits you're doing. So even if you're a BFA student, even if you're a BA student, for example, and you're interested in musical theater, there are some upper level musical theater performance classes. If you have the prerequisites to take those courses, you can take those courses even as a BA student. So I hope that answers your question, Kaylin. But yeah, you could be in the BA program if you're not accepted to the BFA program, and then you could petition your way in, or you could decide you're happy where you are, and maybe you stay where you are. Study abroad, huh? So yeah. Study abroad is the wildest question right now, right? Because
well, that's true too. I guess during normal circumstances.
During normal circumstances, there's a lot of really cool things you can do with theater and study abroad. So the college has, I would say, at least 2 divergent paths in study abroad opportunities, both of which I've had a lot of students take advantage of. So maybe the most traditional version. I have historically taken students to London on a theater-specific trip. We see theater like every night, all over London, all over Stratford. We go see the birthplace of Shakespeare. We go watch the RSC perform. We'll run all over essentially the history of British theater, all over London itself and all over Stratford, right? We take a class, we study all of that stuff, older theater in the UK, newer theater in the UK. It's very much a theater-oriented trip, although a lot of time, a lot of English students come along as well. So there's that. But there's also a lot of independent programs that we send students on. So Emory and Henry has a scholarship program called the Emily Williams, for example. And the Emily Williams will send you to study in the UK. And I've had a lot of theater students get the Emily Williams in order to study theater abroad in a summer program. I've also had students study in musical theater programs, for example, in New Zealand, right? Because there's some wonderful programs in New Zealand. There's wonderful programs in Australia. There's wonderful programs in the UK that you can go to and study specifically sort of on your own or in an exchange. We've had some students study theater on an exchange as well. And we've also had students go work for theater companies abroad and been able to count that as their abroad experience. So I had a student get connected with a theater company in Ireland, was interested in Irish theater. We got her hooked in. She studied with the theater company. She worked on productions with the theater company. She lived and worked in a hostel, right? Sort of helped a hostel, earned her housing by helping to take care of the building. And then we gave her broad credits for sort of assisting with production. So there's a variety of different ways to study abroad with a specific theater focus. If we're ever allowed to travel again, which I really hope we are.
Fingers crossed.
That's right.
Excellent. That's really cool to know. I was not aware about the New Zealand part.
So is it possible to, Kaylin's got a question, to major in a BFA/BA and then minor in something outside of theater? Oh my gosh, yes, Kaylin. In fact, I think it is so smart to do that. So the core curriculum of the college is really, really great about giving you room to do that. So I think this can be a really neat thing. You know, I don't know what it is you might be interested in minoring in, but you can be a BFA musical theater student and minor in music or Spanish or women and gender studies or African American studies, or, you know, a wide variety of cool things which would give you an additional edge sort of off in the world. So the reason why I would say you study theater at a liberal arts college as opposed to a major conservatory is liberal arts students are known for being more unique versus conservatory students are known as being a little more cookie cutter. So like if you were to go to Shenandoah Conservatory, wonderful school, but you can spot a student who's gone to that conservatory within moments of looking at their audition, right? I see their audition, I was like, oh, that's a Shenandoah student, right? There's a certain polish or a look to those students. Versus a liberal arts student, usually you've studied more than just theater, right? You've minored in whatever it is you're interested in minoring in, Kaylin, right? And that makes you in some ways a more interesting person. And in that being a more interesting person, that in the end is what theater companies are really looking for, are people they want to work with, people who can talk about the world, people who know themselves, that kind of thing. And I think a minor is a wonderful way to pursue that. So I encourage my BFAs and my BAs to minor if at all possible. And then also there's always the option to look at being a double major if that's something that you're interested in, or if that's something, you know, it kind of depends again on the student. But if you want to, we can work that out too.
And say with double majoring, just make sure that you are very good with managing your time and make sure you know what exactly, how to plan those things out ahead of time.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, Scott, some of those adjustments that you just saw me preview about our curriculum, I think make it ever easier for a student to double major, even with theater degrees, even with BFA degrees. Historically, the core of the college was a little bit larger and the size of the BFAs were a little larger, right? So you're used to it being very, it would have been very challenging when you were a student here, Scott. Yeah. But we have worked a little bit more flexibility into those BFAs, and we've also, the college has worked more flexibility into its core. So at this point, we are particularly excited about students minoring. I think it's a wonderful idea to minor as a theater student, no matter whether you're a BFA or a BA.
Awesome. It's a great thing to know about. Thank you. Well, let's see if there's any other questions that everyone might have.
I know sometimes you come to these things, Camille and Kaylin too, and it's like, you know, you have a million questions, but you can't remember them right now. And this is weird, right? Like you're just boxes on a screen with your name written on them. And Scott and I are like eager to, you know, I would just say, you know, Camille, since you know you're coming here in the fall, I don't know what your advising situation's like. I don't know if you'll be in my first year seminar, for example. But wherever you end up, you know, please come find me and let me know what you need and let me help you get where you want to go. You and I will certainly have each other in class in some way, shape, or form. So I think we'll find one another. But you can also email me if you've got more questions that pop up at any time too, because I know a lot of times you can't think of your questions in these moments.
Real quick, I'll take this opportunity to send you all my information for if you ever need to reach me for anything, for more admissions-based questions, seeing as I know, Kaylin, that you've got a year here before you'll be looking, but or rather it's, I guess, coming up.
Yeah, and that's me. I put that on my slide, but that's me. So, you know, Camille, you may even already have an EHC email address, and if so, you should be able to look me up. And maybe Kaylin will have an EHC email address in a year, and you two can be like, remember that time we did that Zoom call and it was just the four of us, right? I can see putting you both in a play years from now together.
Well, I was going to say, if we have no more questions, oh, there we go. We got one more. Perfect. And that's actually one I thought about asking myself. So when do you start doing the auditions? When did the auditions start? Do you
So,
mean for the BFA program or for the shows, Kaylin?
oh, I assume she meant that. I'm going to answer both questions because
Yeah,
why
both
not?
would be a good
The
idea.
BFA program. So, again, we're adapting to a COVID-19 reality. So if they're video submissions, we can take them, almost any time. I would just need to get you in touch with my colleague, Annalie Tull, who could give you what we need to see from you, and you could go ahead and get those materials in. We like to also pair those with some kind of interview because, kind of back to that point I was just talking about, one thing that makes a liberal arts college wonderful is that you are more than just a BFA, right? Like you are a person, and we'd like to get to know you as a person. So we definitely want to see you sing, and we want to see you act, and we want to see you dance. But we also want to talk to you a little bit, get to know you a little bit, right? So we can do that almost any time. What we usually do is we have sort of 8 or so rotating days that we do on campus auditions. And right now, I don't believe that's possible given COVID-19. And I look to my colleagues in admissions to know when we think that's safe, or if we have a moment where we think we can do that safely. So if in-person auditions are an option, again, Kaylin, we can let you know when those would be too. I mean, at this point, we don't have any of those set. Just so you know about auditions, like season auditions, we tend to do those in the first couple of days of classes for the entirety of the following semester.
Perfect. All right. Well, any other last minute questions from anyone else, from either of you two, or? All right, excellent. So in that case, I'd say that that's the end of our session for today then. But as we said, please feel free to reach out to either Dr. Bremner or myself if you have any of those questions about, admissions or theater or what have you, or about the school in general. And we'd be more than happy to help out in the future.
Indeed.
Totally. All right. Well, thank you both
Well,
for coming here.
yeah, Camille, good to see you again. I mean, see you-ish. Kaylin, good to meet you. Yeah, and thank you for your time this afternoon. Thank you, Scott.
Absolutely. Thank you, Kelly.
Okay.
All right. Thank you guys so much. You all have a great day.